Super Cool Radio. Hello everyone, I am Matthew Thomas. You are watching and listening to Super Cool Radio. Going to be changing things up again, once again, here on Super Cool Radio. Got a really cool album review. People should be familiar with my guest this time. He was on for the first Wildstreet album review. Now he's back. Please welcome the host of the Krash Kourse Metal Show. He is Trevor Krash Knight.
Thank you for the introduction, my man. Matt, I want to thank you again for having me on. This is going to be a lot of fun. We got Wildstreet 2 coming on here. So, but if anyone's not familiar with me, I do have a channel, Krash Kourse Metal Show on YouTube here. We do interviews, we do album reviews, we do music reactions to new singles and such, and even old singles. But yeah, but definitely we can't beat Matt's Super Cool Radio though with the interviews for a week, 5 a week almost sometimes. Can't beat it. Can't beat it.
Yeah, 3 to 4, depending on how crazy I am that week. I keep telling myself I'm going to slow down to like 1 a week, and yeah, it hasn't happened.
That's a good problem. That's a good problem to have.
I'd rather be overbooked than underbooked, and it is definitely a good problem to have. But thank you so much for the kind words. Thank you so much for hanging out with me here again. And guess what? I don't know if I told you this. This is the season 4 finale, and you're on it.
Oh, all right. Let's go, guys. Let's go. We got a good album here as for the finale. So let's do it. Let's do it. We're good.
Yeah, we're gonna be closing out season 4 with a fantastic album review of Wildstreet 2 by, well, it would only make sense, by Wildstreet. Now you have a signed version. This is actually my only unsigned Wildstreet album, and I want to change that at some point.
Yes, yes, you will. You'll have to change that.
So you have a little different. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
oh, wait, you know what? Did I? No, I don't think I switched it because sometimes I do switch the inserts around.
No, mine's blank. Yeah, no, I think this.
Oh, okay, yeah, mine's blank too. Then, so yeah,
I got this from last year. I think this was one of the reissues.
Okay, yep, yeah. I picked this one up. I think it was before COVID, so it was definitely like 2017, 2008 ish. So yeah, definitely. Interesting. Yeah, you got the reissue. Damn. Does it? I heard it might sound better. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to exchange albums and find out.
I don't know what difference is it. Maybe just had to print some more copies. I don't know.
I saw them back in spring of last year. That was my first time seeing them, and Eric said he just got these in. So I wonder if I don't know. Artwork gets lost, mixed up, whatever. Maybe you just want to change it. I don't know.
Right.
But since we did, already mention this was originally released in 2011, but the reissue was first in 2017, and I have this one, which is probably 2020, 2021, whenever that was as well.
Right. Yep.
So,
definitely. Yeah, because I was going to say I wasn't too sure on the year because it doesn't have the year anywhere on this except 2017. And I'm like, it didn't come out in 2017. I do remember that much. But yeah, definitely.
See, I got my notes prepared for this one. So as we kind of give a little bit of backing on it, I know you mentioned in the first Wildstreet album review, there was a little bit of a different lineup change. Couldn't get a solid lineup of who was actually part of this album. Actually, I'm going to see real quick since I do have the different notes. Nope, it is just the front and back. Never mind.
Yeah, okay, yeah, same with mine then too. So quite interesting as well. Well, we do know it was produced by Kyle Kelso. So I mean, that's the only thing we really get as far as credits on this album.
Yes, and what Eric did talk about in my second interview with him, he thought this album was underproduced. He thought they wanted to go for a more live setting, but he did kind of thought it hurt the overall production of this album. I don't know if you want to give your take about the production of this.
I don't know. I would say this for me, I would say this would probably be a happy medium, maybe. I wouldn't necessarily. It's not like a whole in a different stratosphere production wise. I would, into my ears, compared to Wildstreet 1. I think it's somewhat. It's more of not the same, because obviously Wildstreet 1 is a little bit. We said slightly maybe overproduced, but obviously it doesn't hurt the record, or it doesn't make it necessarily more positive. But Wildstreet 2, though, I wouldn't have guessed that. I honestly wouldn't have guessed Eric saying that this was underproduced, if that helps answer your question. But to me, though, I wouldn't say in a negative way either that this is underproduced.
I'm kind of in the same boat with that. I think it is. I think it's very well done. I think and this is what I want to talk about in the previous one. I hinted at it, but didn't talk about it in our previous video with the first Wildstreet album. This album to me sounds a little bit looser, and I mean that in a positive way, where their personality comes out a little bit more, like the band's personality comes out a little bit more in this album. And this is where, as you said, some people might say these albums are similar, and I disagree with that. I think the first one it's a little bit more structured with like the songs and everything, but also this one, there's no ballads. This is just hard rock music. And I think that's kind of a big distinction I like to make for people between these two albums.
That's a good point, because obviously we do get only 6 tracks on this. But yeah, I agree with you. Definitely no ballads, which I think for me, because I am a big ballad guy, I do like a ballad here and there. So I think maybe for me, I would have liked to have seen a ballad on here, but I don't think it necessarily hurts the album.
No, I agree. I think to me they kind of shed that little bit of their side of that with this one. Obviously, we'll have our thoughts about Wildstreet 3 during that video, but this was more like if you were to see Wildstreet around this time of 2011, 2012, this would be like hearing part of their set is the way I kind of think of it.
Okay, yeah, and maybe to piggyback a little bit more on what Eric said about this album, you could argue that it's more stripped. It has more of a stripped down feel, maybe, and that does go into the underproduced argument. But the more I think about that, okay, I can see maybe that a little bit, the underproduced, but it's still in the same vein, though. It doesn't necessarily hurt. But as far as this album, I think Wildstreet 1, as we said in the previous episode, you could definitely tell who their influences were. They definitely kind of modeled some of their songs and even the song structures and such after some of their influences. And this one here is a little bit more, you get a little bit more of them, like you said, you get more of what they're about, but also still has their roots though in it as well. But I think you do get more Wildstreet, who really is Eric and the rest of the band on this album.
I 100% agree with that as well. Very, very good take on that. So how about with that, since you said it very well, let's dive in to Wildstreet 2. Let me hold this up again because I love the gold. To me, it originally came out in silver, but I love the gold way better. So for the first track, it is "Shake It." I'm gonna say what I said for like the first album. This is a great introduction to this EP. It's fast, it's hard hitting, it gets the adrenaline and blood pumping with this song. I mean, they're all rock songs, no doubt, but you can understand the pace of this album by listening to "Shake It." It's a great introduction. I think some of the other songs got a little bit more catchy hooks to it and a little bit more memorable maybe with the lyrics, but I think "Shake It" is a great introduction to this album.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Definitely, it does give you the feel of what you're going to get on this album. It's a really good. I think this song went up in my personal rankings of their catalog when I first seen it live, because I was always kind of like lukewarm, just thought it was okay. But before I saw them live, but then because they do the song a lot live, and it definitely brought another element to the song when you're listening to it on the record, just seeing it live. So, but I do enjoy the solos as well on the song. They do a great uh, kind of edition of it live. They kind of, I especially know when Dom was in the band, he kind of had his own flair with this song, and it was pretty cool. But yeah, definitely, Shake It's a fine song. It's a good way to open up the album.
Oh, for sure. And so, last thing I did want to add before we move on, that the crowd and gang vocals, they're still there throughout this whole EP. I did want to emphasize that because that is some of the stuff they did carry over from the first album. It is also in Wildstreet too.
Yes, and the gang vocal is very important to Wildstreet as well, and I think that's what I like so much about it. That's because in like the late 89 to 92, 93, a lot of the sleaze glam bands were doing those gang vocals like Skid Row and such, bands like that in their choruses. Awesome stuff. Like Youth Gone Wild, obviously that song has a really good gang vocal part in it. So yeah, definitely. I think that's what Wildstreet masters. That not too many people in the modern era that I can think of off the top of my head, anyway, that do gang vocals just as much as Wildstreet does.
For a newer band, I think some of those bands who are around the 80s, 90s, they still do that for not as much as they did,
Right.
Which is kind of a shame because if you have a unique hook, you should use it more. If you're in that genre, if that's what you want to go with, I should say, don't overuse it, but if you if that's the style you got, go for it. But
Yeah.
I would say modern bands, I don't think too many modern, because Wildstreet, as we kind of talked about in the first time, a little over 10 years old, about 2008-ish, when they first started. So still in the modern era of music, but they're the very few there's a few other bands who still do the gang vocals, but Wildstreet definitely mastered it, and right out of the gate too, even with their first album.
Oh yeah, maybe I'm just showing my age a little bit when I say modern. So, man, yeah, but I agree with you. That you're right. It is a 12-plus-year-old band now. So, I mean, they're going to be classic here soon. I don't want to push it any further than that.
That's a good way to leave it. Don't want to get a hate mail here. So the second song, which is actually one of my favorites off this EP, that is Poison Kiss. I love hearing it live because I like how the song starts. You get the guitar, then you get the other guitar, and it's really cool when they would do that live as well. But it's a great way to start. And again, it's got that catchiness, that rock and roll. The gang vocals are there. The guitar riff is badass. There's a killer guitar solo at the 2:30 mark. Everything that I really enjoy about Wildstreet is combined here with Poison Kiss. This song will rock your face off.
Yeah, it is a very good song. This might have been the first song that introduced me to Wildstreet, was Poison Kiss, because I remember seeing the music video. Because I used to watch music videos after school all the time, find new bands and such. And I'm pretty sure it was Poison Kiss that was the first song I heard of Wildstreet, and I was hooked right away. This is a really good song. It's a really good single style song as well, kind of like how we said about Hard on You. Kind of in the same fashion. It doesn't necessarily sound like Hard on You, but of a single style of a song to put out on the radio or whatever. Very good in that way. Very cool chorus. I really enjoy the video too. It's strange. It's kind of a strange video. Like, kind of don't know what's going on other than them kind of like all getting together and picking people up to go to a show, I guess, or a club. So, but very cool nonetheless. And then you also get Don Jameson, I believe, from That Metal Show. He was in that video as well. So that was kind of cool, because I used to watch that show. That came out when I was in high school, and I was like, oh shit, they got Don on their video. That's really cool. Like, I thought maybe like they're picking up steam and such, which they do with another video or with another song later on in this album. But yeah, this is a great song though too. I mean, very good. Definitely one of my first with Wildstreet, and I've been hooked ever since.
Oh, definitely for sure. I gotta check out the music. I haven't. I never really watched too much. Like, I never got into like watching the whole like music videos. I was kind of more just listening to music. But I'll leave a link for it in the description if anyone's curious about it as well. Plus, that metal show. Come on, I'm I'm slightly younger, but I still enjoy that show.
I was gonna say, I hope I didn't give myself away again when I said that, but but no, it was a good show. I mean, everyone can say what they want about the guys on there like Eddie Trunk and such, but I enjoyed it. That was what I did at 11 o'clock at Saturday nights, so that was quite cool. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Oh, and they always had different perspectives on stuff. It wasn't, come on. I mean, yeah, it's people talking about metal music, but also bringing their own takes to it. Kind of exactly what we're doing right now.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you could kind of say it kind of influenced us to even possibly do what we're doing today. So, very cool.
I would agree with that. So for the third track, we're now almost halfway through Wildstreet 2, and this is Hot Licks, Lixx, if I didn't for the proper spelling of that. This has like an old school rock and roll vibe. Like when I listened to this, I got hints of like AC/DC in here. If, kind of with that storytelling in it, because it's got a great story. It's about a kid learning to play guitar. He doesn't quite fit in anywhere, but when he plays guitar, he's killing it, and that's all he thinks about. And him just kind of progressing between learning to play guitar to becoming a rock star. Really great story. And I really like the line, call the guitar doctor if you need a fix. I love that. It's super catchy. And it's a great addition. And again, very solid and strong songwriting by Eric. That's why you get lines like that. And of course, there's a killer guitar solo around the 2-minute mark.
Yeah. And I agree. I think this is probably one of the most bluesier songs, I would say. I do like that. But for me, though, this song, possibly the weakest. Not saying it's bad, but it is probably the one that I visit the least on this EP album. But still good. Like you said, it's a good story. I listen to it just for the story because I like the lyrics in it. I like the story that you go with the kid. When he had Jimmy, he'd rather listen to Jimi Hendrix instead. Basically, is what he's saying, and I do enjoy the lyrics as well. Very cool stuff. But for me though, out of all the tracks, this probably would be the one I would visit least though. But not a slight to it, but just a little nitpicking there. So
I can see that with that. I think the story is definitely like the main takeaway from this song. It tells, as I said, a very, very good storyline, and again, phenomenal songwriting by Eric. But I do agree, it's got a little like that blues rock. That's why I kind of, when I listen to it, I pick up like hints of AC/DC, like Bon Scott AC/DC.
Right. Yeah. I agree with that. Very, very influential type of song in this as well. Very cool. I agree though. The story does save it for me though, as far as like why I want to listen to this again. So, but yeah, I agree.
For sure. So now we're going to come to the fourth track, which is Cocked and Ready. And it's kind of funny. You mentioned, in the previous song, that was your kind of least favorite. So this is Cocked and Ready is that for me. It's still a great song. I still very much enjoy it. But I don't know. It doesn't have too much variety of like stuff that we haven't heard from Wildstreet. I'm not saying it's a bad song. I think it still deserves to be on it because it is a hard-hitting rock song. It's got a phenomenal guitar solo at the 2.5 mark, and that's what I really enjoy about it. But that's kind of where I am in it. It's got a great groove to it. It's got a great guitar solo. It is an overall. I think it's a good song, but I guess maybe it's the placement of it for me.
That could be true too. I mean, I'm kind of with you as far as I probably do like this a little bit better than Hot Licks, but I'm kind of in the same boat somewhat. But the riff is cool. I do like that. That brings me back, and also the solo, like you said, very good. But yeah, just a good song. Nothing amazing, nothing bad. It's just kind of more in the same boat as with the previous song.
I agree. I think that's a very good analysis of it, and it's kind of cool. We kind of pick up kind of the same stuff with me. I think the guitar solo of how good it is is the reason, it's on the album and why people should listen to it.
Right. Yeah. And we did not plan these answers before we came on the show, right? Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to throw that out there.
That's good to say that. So for this one, to me, this is going to be very short, but I'm going to sum up this 5th track very well. It is You Can't Stop the Rock. This is a rock and roll anthem. This is rock and roll. I don't know how much else I can say about it. It has a great story, and it's purely about rock and roll, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is definitely one of those really good deep cuts of theirs in their catalog. It's kind of a chunky song, too. There's some heaviness a little bit to it. I do like that as well. Cool chorus, like you said. An anthem. Man, it is a good deep cut. I revisited this a couple days ago, this song, and I was like, yeah, it's kind of one that does get overlooked, even by me sometimes. But yeah, definitely, I think you get back on the right track as far as as far as the EP goes, like the continuity of it and stuff. You kind of get back to where you want to be with Can't Stop the Rock. But like you say, good anthem, good stuff though, nonetheless.
It is, and I didn't really appreciate this song till I was listening to Wildstreet 2, driving home from a friend's house, and I like it's cool. Like in the car when I was driving, you can really hear everything, and you're surrounded by the stereo in the car. Mm-hmm. That's where it really clicked with me. I was like, this is an anthem. This is rock and roll. Love the lyrics in it, and it really just that's like the moment I was like, this is a very solid song that does get overlooked, that really shouldn't in their catalog.
Mm-hmm. I agree 100% with that. And sometimes that's all it does take is just you being in the right context for a song, and that helps a whole lot as well. And I know albums that are like that as well. And it's just it is strange to think about that. It's like you would think a good song is just a good song no matter what, but it kind of depends sometimes.
It actually, it really does. It depends on the mood, how you're feeling, and what you're what you're feeling for. That way, the music kind of falls in line with that. But where you're listening to it, how you're listening to it, if you're listening on the crappy speakers, doesn't matter how good the song is, it's probably not going to come through completely.
That's true. Yeah, 100% on that.
So now the 6th song, which if anyone only had the standard edition, this is why we have the collector's edition and why it looks gold, is for the song Easy Does It. And so there was about a 6-year gap between the original release and the collector's release. And I can tell that this song, just a little bit, in the confidence in Eric's vocals, the different guitar effect, which would carry on to the next album. This song was a little bit. It was to me. I obviously was written at a different point in Wildstreet's career because it does sound a little bit different, but I very much enjoy it. And you can kind of see this is where the evolution of Wildstreet, where you start getting the little nuances and different takes in this song, is the evolution to Wildstreet 3.
That's a good point, because you kind of get a little bit of a darker, because I wouldn't say it's not a dark song by any means. It's a fun party song, but you kind of get that dark, a little bit shade of darkness, as you will, in the music itself. But yeah, this is the song that they're known for. I think this song has over like 1 million views on YouTube now. Definitely one of their best. It is, I mean, obviously, like I said, I Want to Get It On from the debut is my favorite. But this one here, no matter who you show it to, Easy Does It, the song, they like it. And a lot of people love the video as well. Like, the video is very standout-ish as well, because obviously they go to a strip club and Easy Does It, baby. So there you go. But definitely it's a good way. It's a shame that it wasn't on the original, because I was kind of unsure about when did this come out. Why is this kind of like the bonus? Because obviously, as you say, it came out like a year or two after. And that makes sense, because even the production of the video seems really top notch as well. So that is kind of making sense now. But very good. This song, like you said, this song doesn't sound like anything that Wildstreet did up until that point off technically, I guess you could say the first 2 albums and EPs. So it's just a great catchy. This is like the epitome of, maybe other than Hard on You and Want to Get It On, this is the sleaziest song in their
Definitely.
up until this point. And very good, great guitar work all around. Very easy to sing to as well. It kind of like we said about in the first episode, Want to Get It On. It's easy. That song is in a live setting, easy to sing along to. And it's somewhat similar to this as well, especially with the catchy chorus. But yeah, there's a reason why this is their best known song and has over 1 million views on YouTube. It's because it is probably their best song overall for people.
I think I can definitely see that. And I think it's definitely the easiest for people to pick up and start listening to and singing at this, if you had to show like one song to someone who didn't know Wildstreet at all, Easy Does It, a very good appetizer and a very good starting place for them. Also, you can tell, to me, the production seems a little bit better. They seem to be more confident with Eric's vocals and the music in general. You can tell there's a little bit like they stepped up their game for Easy Does It. But also, if you listen to like some of the later songs like Tennessee Cocaine and Set It Off, that's where that style, it started with Easy Does It.
Yes, and even Three-Way Ride because they bring in these other instruments kind of as well, and Easy Does It, and it kind of reminds me of a little bit of Three-Way Ride, but same with Set It Off as well, and the others that you mentioned. But it is a natural progression, and that's why I always said about Wildstreet 3, little teaser, it is just a natural progression for Wildstreet. So
we will be getting to all of our thoughts on that and in another video for another season because we will have a lot to discuss for Wildstreet 3. But if anyone up to this point, if you want to hear a little bit of style of Wildstreet 3 and you haven't yet, Easy Does It is a perfect teaser and warm-up for Wildstreet 3.
That's a good point. I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, so a little bit of a shorter review compared to our last one, but again, there's only 6 songs that we had to discuss. But I very much enjoy Wildstreet 2. I think, again, it's a little bit looser. I think it's got a little bit their structure is not as rigid as I think the first album was. But with that, I think they could have added 1 or 2 songs to make this an album. And I think it would have been, this is still great. I ain't knocking this at all. It is really good. But it would have been kind of cool to see if they had the time, money, production, all those other factors that go into it, what they would have done with the full album.
Yeah, I agree. It is kind of the album that I probably visit less just because of the amount of songs. And I think I prefer the version of Wildstreet on the debut compared to this. Now, not saying that Easy Does It. I don't like Easy Does It. That is probably top 2-3 songs of mine for them. So like there is a lot of stuff I do like on Wildstreet 2, but I understand what you're saying. Now that we talk about it more, I can kind of see what Eric says about underproduced. I can kind of see that at first I was like, maybe not, because it does sound the same, but the more we talk about it, I'm like, there are some things that maybe you could have changed, or maybe I could have been a little different, but still, nonetheless, I don't think it's a negative. It's not a negative for this to be a little underproduced. So that's pretty much my take on Wildstreet too. Very good, still worth picking up, still worth checking everything out on it, especially if you do like that more of a stripped down, just a tad more bluesy. Because I do love blues, but I think for me, if I'm going to take one or the other, Wildstreet 1 or 2, it's going to be number 1. So.
And real quick before I respond to what you said, so like underproduced, I just want to clarify from Eric during that interview, it was more like in a live setting. That's like kind of what he was going for, and I can definitely see that with that. That's kind of makes sense more with the structure of the songs.
Right. Yeah, and I love the stripped down stuff. Like I'm not opposed to that. I do like. I also like well produced stuff. I also like the stripped down stuff as well. But for me, with Wildstreet in particular, now I kind of prefer the production of number one, and I don't know what exactly. Maybe like you say, if there was more songs, maybe if they did throw like a more of an acoustic ballad maybe in there, that would have helped raise us up just a tad. But nonetheless, this is still a good album. It's just, for me though, number one I think would take it for me.
And I can definitely see that. I will say my only knock on this, and this is the only thing, it feels just slightly incomplete. That's kind of what I was saying.
That's a good point. I think that's where I'm kind of coming from as well. You're only giving us technically 5-6 songs. So you're kind of like, wait, what? I need a little bit more here, so I agree wholeheartedly with that. A little incomplete.
Yeah, but also they're really good songs to hear live. So like when you see them live, like some of these songs will definitely be in the set. So you should definitely check it out. But if you're just going from a pure like music album review kind of standpoint, that's kind of my feeling on it.
I think if I'm not mistaken, now most of the times that I've seen them, I would say at least half these songs, if not 4 songs, are in the set list.
I was going to say 3 to 4, yeah. As I said, most.
So certainly not a weak album or anything of the sort like that. But, like I said, just for me, a little, I think the main thing, it is incomplete, it feels like. I feel like Eric could definitely, I know now it is hard to write songs, there's no doubt about that. But it's like, Eric, we could have used like 1 or 2 more songs yet on this, and I think incomplete is a good word for this album.
For sure, but not to knock it in any way. And again, there's money, it's time,
right?
I think, and again, I don't know, I've never talked to Eric about this. I think they had to get something out, and that's why it's a little bit more stripped down. It's more just hard rock music. That's why there's no ballads. I think they needed to get something out. Because there's a little bit of gap from 2009, and then this was released in 2011. It's a little bit of a gap, especially for an up-and-coming band who just got started a few years ago. You need a little bit more music, and singles weren't as big as they are now. So that's why I think they had to go with an EP.
Yeah, and that makes a ton of sense. And at this point, I don't know exactly where the band was internally as well. So that could have played a good part in it. So, but that's just kind of speculation on our part. But but we do kind of know what happened at the end of the day, soon after this got released. So, yeah, I mean, but nonetheless, they're still worth checking out. Wildstreet 2, still a very good album or EP.
It definitely is worth a listen, and I hope you guys enjoyed. I don't do too many music reviews here on Super Cool Radio. I know that is something you do very well on the Krash Kourse Metal Show. Links for your YouTube channel will be in the description as well. Trevor, always a pleasure hanging out with you for the season finale of season 4 of Super Cool Radio. Beautiful. We had a fantastic album review.
Thank you for the honor, my man. I appreciate you having me on again, my man. And yeah, guys, come check me out over at Krash Kourse Metal Show. We do all things heavy metal, all genres of metal. So come out, see if you like it, subscribe. So thank you, Matt.
Of course, and thank you so much. And I know we are closing out season 4 if you're here on Super Cool Radio, but season 5 you will be back on. We have to complete this trilogy of Wildstreet albums. And I got a lot to talk about Wildstreet 3, and I believe you do as well.
Yeah, there's definitely some things we could talk about. There's no doubt about that.
Very good, and something to look forward to. But I hope everyone enjoyed this season of Super Cool Radio. I hope you enjoyed the Wildstreet 2 album review with Trevor Krash Knight. Thank you so much for hanging out with me.
All right, brother. Yep.
And for Trevor Krash Knight of the Krash Kourse Metal Show, I'm your host, as always, Matthew Thomas. Thank you so much for watching and listening to Super Cool Radio. And remember, stay frosty.